The first time I slipped into high heels, it wasn't for fashion or vanity or attention. It was a quiet rebellion, a secret thrill that only I knew existed. I had always admired the way my sister, my friends, and even women I didn't know carried themselves. The confidence, the poise, the subtle sway of the hips. It fascinated me. I wanted to feel that, to own that. Not in front of anyone, of course. No one could know. My name is Alex, a 24-year-old office assistant with a quiet life in the city. By day, I'm unremarkable, short brown hair, average height, and the kind of face that blends easily into a crowd. I work in a cubicle, answering emails and filing documents, keeping my head down, doing what's expected. But by night, I explore a different version of myself. A version that moves with confidence, draped in skirts, lace, and high heels that make every step deliberate, sensual, and thrilling. It started small. A pair of borrowed heels from my sister's closet, a skirt she hadn't worn in months, and a scarf I wrapped around my neck to complete the illusion. I would sneak into the bathroom, locking the door behind me, feeling the smooth fabric against my skin, and marvel at the reflection staring back in the mirror. For a few stolen hours, I wasn't Alex, the timid office worker. I was someone else entirely, someone free, someone alive. The apartment I shared with Emma, my girlfriend of 2 years, was a modest 2-bedroom space in the heart of the city. Cozy, warm, lived in, with just enough room for both of us to feel comfortable without smothering each other. Emma was everything I admired, strong, independent, beautiful in a way that made people turn heads without trying. She had no idea about my secret life, though.
Not yet.
The thought of her discovering my little indulgences filled me with both fear and excitement. Emma and I had met during a late-night project at work. She had this way of commanding a room without raising her voice, and I had been captivated from the moment she laughed at one of my awkward jokes. Over time, we had built a relationship that was steady and loving, filled with teasing, late-night talks, and shared coffee runs. She was supportive, kind, and always encouraging me to be myself. But there were parts of me I had never shown her. Parts that lived in a world of silk and heels, makeup brushes, and delicate fabrics. I could feel the duality of my life pressing against me even as I went through my morning routine. Brushing my teeth, tying my shoes, adjusting my tie, all the ordinary motions of a man in the daytime world, while my mind wandered to thoughts of skirts, stockings, and the thrill of slipping into high heels without anyone noticing. The juxtaposition of my secret and my public self created a tension I both hated and craved. Even before Emma left for her morning shift, I felt the anticipation building. Today, I had a plan, a new skirt she had bought and forgotten about, a pair of heels with just the right height to make me teeter, but still feel powerful. I had set aside an hour for myself, a stolen fragment of time where I could indulge in the secret identity that made me feel most alive. The apartment was quiet, the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant city noise my only companions. I opened the closet slowly, careful not to disturb the balance of clothes. My eyes landed on the skirt, navy, fitted, with just enough stretch to hug the curves I had come to enjoy seeing reflected in mirrors. I ran my fingers along the fabric, feeling the soft texture, imagining how it would sway with every step, how it would transform the way I moved. The heel sat beside it, black with a subtle shine, slender enough to challenge my balance, but bold enough to give me that heightened sensation I craved. The thrill was immediate, a rush of adrenaline that made my pulse quicken. I stripped down carefully, replacing my usual casual wear with the skirt and blouse Emma had left behind. I rolled up my sleeves, adjusted the fabric against my skin, and finally slid into the heels. The first step was always the hardest, the adjustment, the precarious shift of weight, but then, gradually, I found my rhythm. The apartment seemed different through these new movements, every corner sharper, every reflection more compelling. I caught sight of myself in the hallway mirror. The reflection was both familiar and alien. Alex, but also not Alex. The figure was graceful, delicate, feminine, yet undeniably me. I twirled once, testing the skirt's movement, and for a moment, I felt untouchable. The high heels elevated more than just my height. They elevated my sense of self, my confidence, and the audacity of my hidden desires. And yet, a shadow of fear lingered. Emma could walk in any moment. A neighbor might knock. The postman could arrive early. Every step, every pose, every brush of the fabric against my skin was a risk. But the excitement outweighed the fear. This was my world, my secret, and tonight, I would own it entirely, even if just for a few stolen hours. I sank onto the edge of the couch, adjusting the skirt one last time, admiring the way the heels made my legs look longer, my posture straighter. The apartment was still quiet, the city hummed distant, and for a fleeting moment, the world seemed to pause. I was Alex, but I was also her, this new, daring version of myself who moved with confidence, who felt beautiful and alive in a way the ordinary Alex never did. As I stared into the reflection of the living room mirror, I realized that this secret life was no longer just a hobby or a curiosity. It was a part of me I could never ignore. The high heels weren't just shoes. They were a symbol of the courage, vulnerability, and exhilaration that I longed for every day. And tonight, I would live fully in that secret world, even if it meant risking everything I had built with Emma, even if it meant teetering on the edge of discovery. The clock ticked softly, marking the passage of time. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and prepared to step fully into the persona that made me feel most alive. The apartment, quiet and dimly lit, was my stage, and the high heels were my wings. Tonight, the secret life I lived in high heels would awaken once more, and nothing would ever feel the same again. The apartment felt different tonight, charged with a sense of anticipation I hadn't felt before. The skirt hugged me perfectly, the heels clicking against the hardwood as I paced slowly, testing the balance and the way the fabric moved with me. Each step was a thrill, a mixture of power and vulnerability, as though the world itself was watching my every motion, even though I was completely alone. I sank into the couch again, adjusting the skirt delicately, feeling the silky texture against my thighs. The transformation wasn't just physical, it was emotional. The Alex who sat there in heels and makeup was more confident, more daring, more aware of every movement, every gesture. But that awareness carried a weight. What if Emma came home early? What if a neighbor saw me through the window? What if I lost control, and this carefully hidden part of me was exposed to the world? My heart raced at the thought, and yet, the risk only heightened the thrill. I ran my hands along the hem of the skirt, feeling the soft fabric slip through my fingers, imagining how Emma would react if she ever discovered this side of me. The idea both terrified and excited me. I stood, practicing a slow, deliberate walk across the living room. The heels forced me to adjust my posture, to sway my hips just enough to keep balance while moving naturally. I felt powerful, graceful, and exposed all at once. Every step, every movement, was a test of my courage and a reminder of the secret I had been carrying for months. The makeup added another layer to the transformation. I had carefully applied foundation to smooth my features, eyeliner to define my eyes, mascara to lengthen my lashes. The final touch was a subtle pink lipstick, soft and understated, yet it changed the way I looked and the way I felt, entirely. I stared into the mirror, marveling at the reflection. The Alex looking back was undeniably me, yet also someone else, delicate, feminine, and completely alive in a way I had never experienced before. But with every thrill came anxiety. The city outside hummed with activity, and I imagined anyone walking past my window could see me, could recognize me. Every noise in the apartment made my heart jump. The creak of the floorboards, the distant siren outside, the soft hum of the refrigerator. I could almost hear Emma's footsteps, coming home early, catching me in the act, and shivering with a mix of fear and excitement. I sank onto the edge of the couch, trying to steady my breathing. This was the crux of my secret life, the tension between desire and fear, between thrill and risk. I wanted to embrace this side of myself fully, to revel in the beauty and freedom of the heels, the skirt, the makeup, but the stakes were impossibly high. One slip, one misstep, could unravel everything. Determined to push past the fear, I moved to the bedroom. The wardrobe beckoned, filled with more clothing I had been saving for special nights, secret indulgences. I carefully selected a delicate blouse to pair with a skirt, feeling the fabric slide through my fingers, soft and cool. Each piece of clothing was a tool in my transformation, a layer of confidence and power that allowed me to step beyond the ordinary Alex. As I dressed, I felt a mixture of excitement and shame. Excitement for the thrill of transformation, the way the clothing accentuated my body and shifted my posture. Shame for the secrecy, for the fear of discovery, for the fact that no one, not even Emma, could know this side of me. The duality was intoxicating, a heady mixture of emotions that left me trembling in both anticipation and fear. I slipped back into the living room, the heels clicking softly on the floor. The reflection in the mirror caught my eye again. Alex, ordinary by day, was gone. In its place stood someone entirely new, confident, feminine, and alive. I twirled once, testing the movement of the skirt, and marveled at the thrill it brought. This was more than clothing. It was a metamorphosis, a chance to explore a hidden part of myself that had long been suppressed. The suspense escalated when I heard the faint sound of a key turning in the lock. Emma was home early. My heart leaped, panic surging through me, yet a part of me thrilled at the risk. I had to think fast. Could I hide? Could I act casual? Or would this secret finally be exposed? I moved to the hallway, adjusting the skirt and smoothing the blouse, trying to appear natural. Emma opened the door, carrying her bag, humming softly. She paused, her eyes widening slightly at the sight of me. "Alex?" she asked, a mixture of surprise and curiosity in her voice. I forced a casual smile, my voice slightly higher than normal. "Just trying something new," I said, keeping my tone light, almost teasing. Emma raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued but not suspicious. "Something new, huh?" she murmured, stepping into the apartment. Her eyes lingered on me for a moment longer than usual, and I felt a shiver of vulnerability mixed with exhilaration.
She didn't know, not yet.
But the possibility of discovery hung in the air, thick and electric. I guided her toward the couch, careful to maintain the balance of my heels, the sway of my hips, the delicate grace of the skirt. Each step was a tightrope walk, balancing desire and fear, thrill and secrecy. Emma chatted casually about her day, unaware of the internal storm raging inside me. Once she settled, I took a deep breath, allowing myself a moment to revel in the transformation. The blouse clung softly to my frame, the skirt hugged my hips, and the heels elevated not just my height but my confidence. I was entirely in control of this persona, yet entirely vulnerable if my secret were discovered. The night stretched on, a careful dance of conversation and subtle movements. Every glance in the mirror reminded me of the duality, the risk, the thrill. I was both Alex and someone else entirely, someone daring, feminine, and free in ways the ordinary Alex could never be. And then, just as I began to relax, a sudden knock on the door shattered the delicate balance. My pulse quickened. A neighbor? The mail? Or someone who could expose everything? I froze, feeling the fabric of the skirt against my thighs, the heels precariously shifting beneath me, every nerve in my body alert. Emma glanced at the door, curious. Who could that be? I swallowed hard, panic and excitement intertwining. Every step, every second, every small movement became a challenge, a test of courage and secrecy. The high heels that had empowered me now seemed to amplify my vulnerability, each click against the floor echoing like a warning. I realized in that moment that the secret life I lived in high heels was not just a private indulgence, it was a tightrope walk, a thrilling, dangerous exploration of identity, desire, and risk. And tonight, that secret was about to be tested in ways I could never have anticipated. The knock at the door echoed through the apartment like a warning bell. My heart jumped, and for a split second, I froze in place, heels clicking against the hardwood as I weighed my options. Emma looked at me, curiosity and slight concern flickering in her eyes. "Alex, who is it?" she asked. I swallowed hard, forcing a casual tone. Maybe a neighbor or the delivery guy? My voice cracked slightly, betraying my calm facade. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, not just from embarrassment, but from the thrill of the danger. Every secret I had tried to protect was dangling by a thread, and I was acutely aware that one wrong move could expose everything. Emma stepped toward the door, her brow furrowed. I followed instinctively, heels teetering as I navigated the small space. The reflection in the hallway mirror caught my attention. Alex, ordinary by day, was gone. In its place was someone entirely new, poised, feminine, alive, yet vulnerable. I couldn't take my eyes off the reflection. The person staring back was a perfect balance of exhilaration and fear. I opened the door cautiously, and standing there was Lila, Emma's younger sister, someone who had always been curious, mischievous, and way too perceptive. She smirked, her eyes immediately catching the heels, the skirt, the blouse. Well, Alex, she said slowly, letting the name linger, like a teasing threat. Didn't expect to see you like this. My stomach dropped. Lila's presence was the last thing I had anticipated. The room seemed to shrink around me as the reality of exposure hit. The skirt clung to my hips, the heels forced me to adjust my balance with every shift, and the makeup highlighted every feature in a way that left me feeling both powerful and completely exposed. Emma's hand found mine, giving a gentle squeeze. Her eyes searched mine, questioning, concerned, yet also brimming with curiosity. "Alex, what's going on?" she asked, her voice calm but sharp, slicing through the tension. I swallowed hard, trying to gather my thoughts. How could I explain this? How could I convey months of secret exploration, the exhilaration, the fear, the identity that I had been nurturing in private? I opened my mouth, but the words faltered. Lila stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, her gaze sweeping over the apartment, the skirt, the heels. "I have to say, you look amazing. But wow, this is a side of you I never imagined," she said, her tone teasing but not judgmental. Every nerve in my body tightened. The thrill I had felt moments ago now mingled with a deep, raw anxiety. My secret life, the persona I had embraced fully in private, was exposed to the two people I cared about most. The risk of rejection, the fear of judgment, and the possibility of ridicule pressed down on me, threatening to crush the exhilaration I had worked so hard to enjoy. Emma stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Alex, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm surprised, but are you okay?" Her eyes softened, and I caught the hint of a smile that reassured me just enough to breathe, though the fear still lingered. I nodded slowly, voice trembling. I've been exploring something. A side of me I've kept hidden, my secret life." The words hung in the air, delicate and fragile, ready to shatter if mishandled. Lila grinned. "Well, now that it's out, I think it looks fantastic. But I bet it's nerve-wracking too, huh?" Her eyes sparkled with mischief, and I realized she understood more than I had expected. The tension escalated further when a sudden noise came from the balcony door. An unexpected visitor, the neighbor who had a key to the building, had stepped onto the shared terrace, unaware of the scene inside. My pulse quickened, and I realized the apartment was no longer private. The possibility of exposure extended beyond Emma and Lila. I moved quickly, adjusting the skirt and balancing carefully in the heels. Every step felt precarious, each movement a test of control and grace. My heart raced as I tried to maintain composure, aware that one slip could ruin everything. Emma reached for my hand again. "Alex, whatever this is, I want to understand. I want to know why it's so important to you." Her voice was calm, patient, but filled with a depth that cut through my anxiety. The question was simple, yet it carried the weight of judgment, love, and expectation. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my trembling hands. It's a way to feel alive. A side of me I can't express in my normal life. The heels, the skirts, the makeup, it's not just clothing. It's me. The part of me I've been too afraid to show. The words flowed with difficulty, but with each one, a weight lifted. The confession was terrifying and exhilarating simultaneously. Lila nodded, clearly impressed. I get it. It's about freedom, about expression. And honestly, you pull it off perfectly. Her grin was encouraging, though I could sense the amusement behind her words. But the suspense wasn't over. A sudden knock at the front door interrupted the fragile calm. My pulse raced uncontrollably.
Who else could it be?
I glanced at Emma and Lila, who were both now aware of the situation. The risk of complete exposure loomed. Emma's expression hardened slightly, a flicker of concern crossing her face. Alex, you need to answer that. I stepped toward the door, heels clicking against the hardwood, each step a reminder of the precarious balance I maintained, both physically and emotionally. The knock came again, louder, insistent. My hands shook as I reached for the handle, the dress slipping slightly into movement. I opened the door slowly. Standing there was someone I didn't expect, my boss, Mrs. Callahan, a woman who commanded respect in every room she entered. Her eyes immediately landed on me, taking in the skirt, the heels, the blouse, the subtle makeup. I felt my breath catch. This was no longer a private matter. This was exposure with real-world consequences. Mrs. Callahan raised an eyebrow, her expression a mix of curiosity, surprise, and perhaps a touch of amusement. Well, Alex, she said, her voice measured. I didn't expect this when I dropped by. Everything okay? I swallowed hard, panic rising, but a part of me thrilled at the audacity of the moment. The heels grounded me in this new persona, the skirt clung perfectly, and the blouse emphasized every line. I felt both powerful and vulnerable, exposed and alive. Emma stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on my shoulder. It's okay, he's exploring something, she said gently, her eyes on me, offering quiet support. Mrs. Callahan studied me for a long moment, her gaze sharp and perceptive. Exploring, huh? Interesting, very interesting. She smiled faintly, a knowing glint in her eye, but didn't push further. At least not yet. The apartment held its breath with me. Lila smirked, Emma's hand remained steady on my shoulder, and Mrs. Callahan's eyes seemed to hold a question that hung in the air. The risk, the thrill, the fear of judgment, all collided in that moment. I realized, with a mixture of exhilaration and terror, that my secret life in high heels had been fully revealed to 3 people who mattered, and possibly one who could change everything. The duality of Alex, the timid office worker, and the confident, feminine persona I had embraced was now fully visible, teetering on the edge of acceptance or rejection. Every second stretched into eternity. I could feel the delicate balance of the heels beneath my feet, the skirt brushing against my thighs, the makeup highlighting every feature. The suspense was unbearable. What would happen next? Would Emma accept this side of me? Would Lila tease me mercilessly, or would she understand? And what about Mrs. Callahan? Would this affect my job, my reputation, everything I had built? The apartment seemed frozen in time, every heartbeat amplified, every breath held, every movement deliberate. I knew that the next words, the next reaction, could tip the scales entirely toward freedom or exposure, acceptance or shame. And then, Mrs. Callahan's lips curved into a subtle, enigmatic smile. Well, Alex, this is a side of you I never expected. I think we need to talk more about this. The words hung in the air like a challenge, a promise and a warning. The tension was unbearable. I felt my heart pounding, my body trembling, yet a thrill coursed through me, a thrill I had never experienced, a mix of fear, excitement, and anticipation that left me both terrified and exhilarated. I realized in that instant that my secret life in high heels was no longer private. It had crossed into the world of consequences, scrutiny, and revelation. And yet, I wouldn't have it any other way. The apartment felt impossibly small, each heartbeat echoing in my chest like a drum. Mrs. Callahan's eyes lingered on me, taking in the skirt, the heels, the blouse, the subtle makeup. Emma's hand remained steady on my shoulder, grounding me in a fragile sense of security. Lila leaned casually against the wall, smirking, but there was an intensity in her gaze that made my stomach twist. Alex, Mrs. Callahan said, her tone calm but sharp, You've shown me a side of you I never expected. And I have to admit, it's intriguing. But we need to understand what this means. I swallowed hard, unsure whether to feel relief or dread. Intriguing. Not judgmental, not angry, but not entirely accepting either. Her words hung in the air, heavy with possibility and danger. One wrong move, one misstep, and everything I had worked to balance, the secret life, the thrill, the exploration, could collapse instantly. Emma squeezed my hand gently. "Whatever happens," she whispered, "we'll face it together." Her reassurance should have calmed me, but instead it made me more acutely aware of every detail. The way my skirt clung to my hips, the precarious balance of the heels beneath my feet, the soft makeup highlighting my features in a way that made me feel exposed and alive all at once. Lila chuckled softly. "Well, Alex," she said, "you certainly know how to keep things interesting. I guess there's no turning back now." Her words were teasing, but I could sense the truth behind them. My secret life, carefully hidden for months, was now fully visible to people who mattered, and possibly to someone who could change everything about how I lived. A sudden noise from the hallway made all of us freeze. The building's elevator chimed, and footsteps approached, someone else, someone unknown, moving closer. My heart raced. Another neighbor? A delivery? Or worse, someone who could see everything and judge, expose, or mock. Mrs. Callahan's gaze shifted toward the door, her posture alert. Emma tightened her grip on my hand, silently urging me to remain calm. Lila smirked but looked mildly concerned. And I stood there, heels clicking slightly as I adjusted my balance, aware that every second stretched longer than the last. The door opened slowly. I expected a stranger, someone inconsequential. Instead, it was Mr. Reynolds, Emma's father, known for his conservative views, standing in the hallway with a puzzled frown. His eyes swept over the scene, me, in heels and a skirt, blouse neatly tucked, makeup perfect, Emma holding my hand, Lila observing with amusement. "Alex, what's going on here?" he asked, voice firm, eyes narrowing. The tension that had been building for months, years even, seemed to explode in that moment. I could feel every heartbeat, every breath, every tremor of vulnerability coursing through me. Emma spoke quickly, trying to defuse the situation. "Dad, it's complicated. Just give us a moment, please." But I knew it was too late. The secret life I had cherished, the persona I had crafted in private, was now exposed to someone whose judgment mattered deeply and whose disapproval could change everything. I swallowed, my throat dry, heels wobbling slightly as I tried to maintain composure. My mind raced. Should I run, hide, explain? Every instinct screamed at me, yet my body, dressed, made up, poised, remained in place, a tangible symbol of the duality I had been living with. Mr. Reynolds' eyes lingered on me, narrowing. "Alex, I need an explanation.
Now."
And in that heartbeat, in that fleeting, suspended moment, I realized the truth. No matter how carefully I had balanced my secret life, no matter how thrilling the transformation, no matter how supportive Emma or teasing Lila could be, the next few words could define everything. My secret, my identity, my passion, all teetered on the edge of exposure, judgment, and irrevocable change. I opened my mouth, ready to speak, when suddenly,
The doorbell rang.
everyone froze. My pulse pounded in my ears. Who could it be? The possibilities stretched endlessly. A neighbor who would gossip, a colleague who might recognize me, someone who could completely disrupt the delicate balance I had fought to maintain. The high heels beneath my feet felt suddenly precarious, the skirt clinging too tightly, the blouse too soft, too revealing of the tension that radiated from my body. Emma looked at me, eyes wide. "Alex, maybe you should hide?" I shook my head, unable to move. Lila leaned forward, smirking but eyes sharp.
"No way."
"This is getting good. Let's see what happens." Mrs. Callahan raised an eyebrow, an almost imperceptible smile curling her lips. This is certainly going to be an interesting conversation," she murmured, her tone low and enigmatic. The elevator dinged again, closer now. I could hear the faint shuffle of feet approaching the apartment, and my chest tightened. This was the moment where everything could unravel. My secret life, the thrill, the identity I had embraced in private. It all hung by a single thread. And as the footsteps neared, the tension in the room reached its peak. Hearts raced, breaths quickened, and the world seemed to shrink down to that small apartment, to me in heels and a skirt, to Emma, to Lila, to Mrs. Callahan, and to the unknown visitor approaching. I realized, with a mixture of fear and exhilaration, that my secret life in high heels was no longer just mine to control. The consequences, the exposure, the thrill, the judgment, they were all converging in a single, perfect moment of suspense. The doorbell rang again, louder this time. And in that instant, everything froze.